Hi everybody, my name is Joe Harford.
And I'm Angie Keating.
And this is...
Data Security Over Coffee.
Great. So there's a number of different things that we want to talk about today, one of which is just a friendly reminder to everybody that October is...
Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Right. And just real quickly, why in the work that you do as a subject matter expert and a thought leader in the industry, why do you think that should be important to somebody? Like, why should they care about that?
Well, I mean, I think as we've seen with things like breast cancer awareness and other types of, whether it was the Ice Bucket Challenge, I mean, when you bring awareness to something, it just kind of brings a central focus for a period of time. And I think that as we go into the holiday season, it's a really good time. I mean, it's hard to believe it's almost holiday season. But this is going to be the time from now through spring where first we're going to start with the scams around, well, this is UPS and your Christmas presents didn't come.
Right.
Click here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to start with the IRS scams. And, and then the things like Crypto Locker where they're telling you that the police are going to be at your door with a subpoena in 5 minutes because they found porn on your machine. So all of those kinds of awful...
Not on my machine, by the way.
Not on your machine.
Okay.
No, yeah, we know. Trust me, we scan your machine.
Okay.
But those types of things are just rampant, and especially anything like a holiday or a major day like tax day, those are always the things that bring this out of the woodwork.
So would you agree that, the first thing that people really have to do is they have to increase awareness? So Cybersecurity Month helps people do that.
Well, and October is so appropriate because for a lot of people, cyber is scary. For some people, even just getting on their computer and going to a website that's different is frightening because they know all of the scary things that can happen. So I think October is also the perfect month just from a theme of you should be frightened of some of the bad things that are going on.
So, and I agree with you, but I think people also really have to be able to develop their own level of vigilance. So it's not just about it happens in October, it has to be something that happens throughout the year. One of the things that I forgot to do before we start was to thank Yazoo for being our sponsor today. So thank you very much to the Yazoo team for being our sponsor of Data Security Over Coffee. Another big thing is happening here in the Happy Valley region today, actually throughout the weekend. And as Penn State alums, this is important to us. This is our homecoming. So hopefully those people that are traveling into the region are going to travel safely. Everybody's going to tailgate tomorrow, have a great weekend, and be safe. So it's great to welcome all the alums back to the region.
I think it might be the Maryland game too. So
they're playing the Maryland. What the hell are they? The Tarpons or some?
They're turtles.
Turtles. They're turtles. Like
seriously,
right,
turtles.
Right, a lion and a turtle. But anyway,
you know who's.
So for those in Maryland, if you're offended, you'll get past it. So the other thing that we wanted to mention as a kind of a bit of trivia is this is also the 40th anniversary of when the We Are Penn State chant was first introduced at the stadium.
I didn't know that.
And there were, at the time, they were national champion cheerleaders, and they were really trying to rally the fans around the team. Obviously, that's what cheerleaders do, right? And they tried a number of different things. They tried to use a chant with Joe-Pa, they tried to use a chant with Blue and White, and they finally just settled on We Are Penn State. And they found out that it really resonated not only with the fans at that time, but for the last 40 years, it's really become our moniker around the world. And I think that's pretty exciting.
You and I travel for business all the time. And every time I'm out of town, if I have a Penn State shirt, anything Penn State on, somebody will walk past me and go, "We are," and you say, Penn State.
It is. So I think that's kind of exciting. On a more serious note, however, the thing I wanted to be able to share with the folks out there and get your opinion on is recently I've read more stories about merger and acquisition activity. But merger and acquisition activity that is not just concerned about financial performance or customer base, being able to take a look at new markets, but merger and acquisition activity that's now saying, okay, if I as a company want to actively engage and pursue and purchase you, I'm also becoming more concerned about your current cyber security posture.
Correct.
And so that's different than a financial audit. That's different than looking at somebody's CRM to see who their customers are. So when people are interested either in buying a company or in being purchased,
Sure.
what kind of tips can you give them on how to prepare themselves so that their cybersecurity posture is purchasable?
Right, right. Well, I think it was really telling, was it 7, 8 years ago, when I got my Certified Information Systems Auditor certification, and I sat for that exam. Half of the room were geeks like me that really struggled with understanding audit concepts, and that was the part of the knowledge base we needed to learn. The other half of the room, and there were probably 400 or 500 of us in this room in Baltimore, they were CPAs. The reason was because they understood and they understand that the currency of today is data. And they know that that data and the data about the financial picture of a company lives in IT systems. So in order to really understand the financial position of a company and where risk really may be within an organization that someone is thinking of acquiring or merging with, you really have to understand their infrastructure and their systems. And as you and I were talking to our accountant yesterday, Randy Tarpey of Tarpey Associates, it really is not just about the financial controls of does the same person write the checks that reconciles the checkbook.
Right.
Because if there are not good systems in place in the accounting system to begin with, security controls, someone with the administrator password on your accounting system can simply go in under as an administrator and make changes even to the audit log or turn off the audit log. So it's really super important. And I think that when we look at performing due diligence, the very first thing, to get back to your question of, well, what can you do? The very first thing is that the same way that you get your financial house in order if you're looking to be acquired,
Right.
or if you are thinking that maybe someday your exit strategy is to be acquired, is you want to pay as much attention to your information security infrastructure and controls as you pay to your financial picture. So you want to get your house in order. And one of the best ways to do that is to do an information security risk analysis. That's not just a penetration test. A penetration test is going to tell you if maybe your firewall has a bad configuration. But it's not going to tell you if you have a system administrator who has allowed accounts to remain active even after people have left.
Well,
okay. It's not uncommon when we go into some healthcare systems and we do audits to find out that there are users that are still active in their Active Directory that left the organization years ago. And so those kinds of rogue accounts are just one example of the things that may not necessarily turn up on a penetration test, but it's going to come up in, well, what is your process for when a person leaves? How do we get back their keys? Mm-hmm. How do we get back their fob? How do we get back their card? Oh, and by the way, how do we make sure that their accounts are not active still? That's one example.
Well, I think that it's a big challenge because as we take a look at healthcare and as we take a look at financial services and so many other industries, even our own industry, yes, we know that M&A activity will always be going on.
Yes.
And the challenge for people now is that, as you said, the real currency of the 21st century is digital data. And if
Correct.
people aren't aware of that and then aware of the risks of that and what can really be under the covers, I think they leave themselves open. Because essentially, if I understand it correctly, if I'm the acquirer of your company, mm-hmm, and you have a really bad cybersecurity posture, IT security practice, and I acquire you, I now acquire all of the liability and risk.
Sure.
And so that data breach occurs, now my brand is affected, even though it may have been your division or your company, but my brand is now negatively impacted.
Sure.
So I think that's a major takeaway for people, yeah, that they need to consider.
And I'm big on analogies. So it reminds me of back in my days, when I started out in land surveying, civil engineering, where, when one of my clients was going to buy a piece of property, they really wanted to know, was there hazardous waste ever dumped there? Were there tanks underground? They wanted to know that because when they bought the property, those tanks and whatever had been dumped there,
sure,
became their problem.
Sure.
It's exactly the same with data and digital infrastructure as well. And yes, it is possible to actually buy a data breach.
Right.
Buy a doctor's office, buy a health practice where they have their electronic health records stored in some Fred Flintstone database in two guys and a laptop's basement,
Right.
IT company, and you probably just bought yourself a HIPAA fine or some future big problem.
Sure. Hopefully this has been helpful to folks when we talk about M&A activity. Again, a reminder about Cybersecurity Month. I think you made a really good point for October. It's themed as a scary time, although I think what people really have to do is they have to use the awareness to continue their own level of vigilance. Some trivia about Penn State, and then also, some of the tips that people have to consider and really think about when they're involved in this activity around merger and acquisition. So,
Yeah.
we're going to wrap it up. We're going to get out of here, and hopefully it's been a worthwhile segment for folks, and we'll see you the next time. It's Data Security Over Coffee.
Thanks, everyone.